The hotel lobby gleamed. Chandeliers hung like small suns. He swept under them, a service cart of towels in his care. He was 12, maybe 13, uniform neat though worn. A group of teenagers in tailored clothes watched him with the practiced cruelty of privilege. "Hey kid," one said, "you good at balancing? You're always balancing those towels like it's a trick." The leader plucked a towel and pointed at the balcony. "I'll give you the best suite if you have balance," he sneered. "Walk the railing. Make it, and you get a night in the suite with the view." The offer was a joke, a way to show him his place. He folded the towel slowly, feeling the sting of it. He didn't climb the railing. He pushed his cart away and went home through streets that smelled of frying oil and rain. His mother waited with rice and a tired smile. "Let them laugh," she said. "You work. You study. You don't stoop." He learned to read people by the way they arranged their laughter. Some laughed to connect. Others laughed to put a fence between themselves and whoever they thought might intrude on their comfort. The leader's laugh came with a cigarette smell aftertaste, something practiced and cheap. He felt the words "best suite" like a coin flipped in the air, an offer that was currency only to those with money to spend. The balcony was more than a railing. It was a border, a line that separated winners from the rest. At the community center, he found a secret life. The coach introduced him to the slow, stubborn work of getting better. "Balance isn't just your body," she told him. "It's your mind. It's how you go when the lights get hot, and the only steady thing is the beat of your heart." They trained in silence sometimes, the sound of feet against the beam like a metronome. He learned to measure distance by the certainty in his footfalls. He learned to fall so he could come back to standing without fear. He practiced on rooftops too, where the city was an edge and the air was honest. He learned to walk a narrow ledge and feel it support him rather than threaten him. He learned to breathe through wind and doubt. Each small success stitched a quiet confidence into him. A year later, the hotel held a charity gala with a talent showcase. The winner would get a scholarship and a night in the presidential suite. The leader posted about it like an invitation to mock anyone brave enough to try. His mother folded the flyer into her palm and said, "You should try." That night, the lobby glittered. He worked the service line, the flyer hidden beneath a towel. When it was his turn, he signed up quietly. Backstage, he calmed himself with breathing and memory, his mother's hands steadying him, the beam that had taught him to be still. Halfway through his routine, a child in the front row lost his footing and fell toward the crowd. Without thinking, he leaped from the beam and caught the child's wrist. For a suspended second, there were only the two of them. He hauled the child upright. The room held its breath, then broke into genuine, surprised applause. The leader's laugh died somewhere in the middle. He won. The scholarship would pay for training, and the suite, for a night, felt like a story made true. But something else happened. The hotel's manager asked to speak with him. A photograph surfaced, a yellowed image of a young housekeeper and a promise left behind years ago. The hotel's owner, who had once been involved with his mother, announced that he had been searching for the boy ever since. In a small office with blinds that made stripes of light, the owner sat across from him. "Your mother," the owner said, "was here a long time ago. She helped me when I was younger, once. I had forgotten to be careful, and she taught me otherwise. I don't know how to fix everything that was lost, but I wanted to find the person who belongs where she once meant him to be." There was a humility in the man's voice that made the air feel softer. Possibilities unspooled in his mind like a spool of thread. Rooms, money, doors that opened without asking. But what he wanted had less to do with a single night and more with something that could change more than his own circumstances. "I don't want to leave the people who raised me," he told the owner. "I want to make sure the doors open for more than just me." The owner listened. "I can offer resources," he said, "but I want to do this right. I want someone who understands the streets and the beams, someone who knows what our programs look like on the ground." They negotiated terms that felt like making a compact rather than taking a handout. The owner would fund a foundation. The young man would ensure the neighborhood had a real voice in how those funds were used. No staged events, no token faces. Respect, partnership, power shared, not given. Training took him away for stretches. He traveled for meets where people measured him in seconds and medals. The travel taught him discipline and loneliness. There were hotel rooms that smelled like cleaning solvents and others that smelled faintly of lemon and the same soft cotton that reminded him of home. He learned to sleep on buses and to eat in cafeterias that fed champions. Sponsors knocked, magazines ran his photo, and he answered them all with a steady voice that wasn't interested in more than it needed. When he began to win small competitions, the change was subtle. People began to recognize him in the hotel, and their eyes slid across him with a different kind of appraisal, not dismissive, but curious, respectful in an unfamiliar way. That acknowledgement felt complicated. He didn't crave headlines, but he appreciated that opportunities multiplied. A coach who offered to train him for free, a sponsor who covered travel to a regional meet, a reporter who wanted to tell a story about hope that didn't look like pity. After the gala rescue, when cameras had stopped flashing and the hotel had returned to its idle hum, people asked where he had trained, who had paid for his lessons. The manager arranged meetings and the owner made calls. They built a foundation that offered scholarships, mentorship, and real apprenticeships. He insisted the programs be run by people from the neighborhoods they aimed to help. No token titles, he told the board. Let the work be led by the lived experience. The leader reappeared in unexpected ways. He volunteered at clinics and slowly became someone who could listen. They sat on a rooftop one evening and shared stories. I didn't know how to be anything else, the leader admitted. I used mockery to make people smaller so I wouldn't have to look at my own emptiness. They laughed at the honesty, and the young man saw how people could become better versions of themselves if someone gave them a chance. There were nights when the past caught up. He would hear the taunts in the back of his head and feel small and furious in private. Sometimes he wanted to take the money, buy a new life, and walk away from the weight of the neighborhood. Instead, he chose to make the weight matter, to convert it into leverage that could shift things for many. He built programs that taught more than balance: resume writing, small business coaching, mentorship for parents. He started scholarships for kids who had been laughed at for odd shoes or quiet voices. The suite became a place of rights rather than trophies. On special nights, it opened to groups of children who had never seen a room with a view. They spread paper stars across the ceiling and ate pizza on the carpet. He would tuck the smallest under a blanket and tell stories about falling and getting back up, about the strange bravery of ordinary days. Once, a girl who had been mocked for her teeth curled into his lap and whispered, "You made me feel like I could do it." He answered, "That's the point." He still worked at the hotel sometimes. The janitor job kept his feet on the ground. He taught balance classes in school gyms and on rooftops, hired his old coach, and made sure kids knew how to steady themselves when the world pushed. Sponsors sometimes offered him the trappings of success: cars, endorsements, glossy promises of more. He accepted what helped the mission, and he turned the rest down. One quiet evening, he walked the lobby where they'd once mocked him. A young bellhop asked, grinning nervously, "Do you have balance?" "There's a challenge on the railing. They say if you walk it, you get a night in the suite." He looked at the balcony, at the tourists waiting for a show, then at the bellhop. He folded a towel and showed the boy how to make a clean, sharp edge. "Balance isn't for proving yourself," he said. "It's for holding steady when the world pulls at you. Teach that, and the rest follows." He could have walked the railing and taken the suite as a trophy. Instead, he chose a quieter victory, teaching a room full of kids to stand steady and grabbing the hand of any small person who slipped. Years later, the foundation held nights in the suite for children who had never known a room with a view. They filled it with paper stars and laughter. And for once, his childhood dream of light came true, not just for him, but for a whole small congregation of hopeful hearts. They had mocked him with a line that was meant to put him in his place. They had not known how deep a ledger of human worth could be, nor that a boy who learned balance on cracked beams would one day teach a city to stand a little straighter. They had not known he would become someone who could steady others, who could turn a cruel joke into an invitation for change. They had not known he was the kind of person who would use a suite not to sleep alone, but to host a room full of small, brave people who would one day balance the world a little better.